The film opens in space with the starship Avalon on autopilot going to the territory universe of Bequest 2 during a mass flight of Earth's general population. The Gathering and the 5,000 Voyagers are all in hibernation units for the 120-year adventure. It is 30 years into the journey. The boat goes through a meteor whirlwind, and power is diverted to the forward shields. Then, the boat collides with a huge meteor and the power squints. Full alert screens come on in the control locale, then, promptly return to normal. Something terrible has happened. Jim Preston, Chris Pratt, a mechanical creator, stirs for his situation with a blissful PC voice telling him that soon they will appear at home too. He is educated that feeling bewildered and weak following being in hibernation is regular. The wristband on his arm is analyzed, and the PC drives him to his cabin where he rests. The next day he stirs, endeavors to pick what to wear while meeting individual explorers, then progresses toward a cafeteria where he is the one to zero in on. He heads to a path meeting about presence as a pilgrim on property, but he is the last stray. The blissful PC-delivered teacher can't appreciate his request concerning why no one else is there. Jim goes to the foremost concourse and gets no help from the information stand. He finds an office where he can establish a connection with the Home Association, that he is forewarned will be exorbitant. He imparts something explicit getting a handle on he is the only one cognizant and needs help, then sorts out it will be 15 years before anyone on Earth acknowledges his message. He is in isolation. Jim finds manuals for all the boat equipment. He focuses on the manual on the hibernation units yet can't sort out some way to dismiss it from again once the individual has stirred. He can't get into the district where the gathering units are to endeavor to wake anyone for help, and he can't get into the request locale. His wristband doesn't offer him the fitting slack. Jim finds the robot bartender Arthur, Michael Sheen, who he can speak with, but the robot is altered to a lot bartender direction, as if you could manage without where you are, change things. Jim is a general class voyager with a principal cabin, and he breaks into a suite with additional lovely comforts. A year passes as Jim uses the boat's redirection workplaces, but without others, he ends up being even more quickly forlorn. He goes to an area where voyagers can get into a spacesuit and go outside while safely secured to the boat. He trips near a unit with a choice woman inside, Aurora, Jennifer Laurence. He focuses on her explorer profile she had recorded before the boat taken off. She is an editorialist and is branching out to domain to have an encounter and learn about why people choose to be a trailblazer. He examines her records and thinks she is perfect. He wrestles with himself about arousing her, understanding that it will foreordain her to kick the can on the boat, yet he can't stand the partition following a year alone, so he genuinely makes her unit wake her up, hiding away before she can see him. A comparative cheerful PC program stirs Aurora and leads her to her hotel to rest. Aurora stirs the next day alone and wanders to the staggering concourse where she meets Jim. He confesses all with her about how long he has been ready. At this point he doesn't tell her that he stirred her. He has asked Arthur the robot bartender not to tell Aurora what he has done, and Arthur agrees. Aurora and Jim talk every day, inspect what can be endeavored to fix the units. Aurora swims, runs, and begins to think about her story. She asks regarding the reason why Jim left planet Earth, and he says he seizes the opportunity to make things and fix things, and in the world, things sort displaced when they break and are not out. He wants to dwell in a house he develops himself. Her plan was to go out to the region, spend a year there chatting with pioneers about why they left Earth, then return to Earth. Aurora is a gold-class voyager and uses her status to get more multifaceted breakfast meals than his standard elbow room qualifies him for. After some time of getting to know each other, Jim asks Aurora making the rounds and she recognizes. After they eat, he takes her to the spacesuit room, and there are 2 suits and both of them get dressed and head outside. Returning, Aurora is empowered, and they go to Jim's hotel and engage in sexual relations. They are delighted, have their everyday timetable of movement, watching the stars, taking advantage of the boat's redirection and diner settings. Another year passes, and it's Aurora's birthday, and Jim plans a special surprise. He made a ring for her. Going in the bar, Aurora tells Arthur that she and Jim have no secrets and Jim agrees, not understanding that Arthur translates this as suggesting that Jim has told Aurora that he stirred her. Jim wanders into the men's room, and Arthur tells Aurora what Jim's respectable choice to pick her to stir. Aurora is squashed and irritated, and encourages Jim to stay away from her. One night she enters his hotel while he's resting, and goes after him with her grasp hands. While she's running, Jim uses a boat's radio to endeavor to represent himself, but Aurora yells that Jim took her life. While this is all going on, the control room is even more routinely getting cautions of structure frustrations, more long-term. Jim and Aurora have seen seemingly insignificant details like the cleaning robots having system disillusionments. It's right now quite a while since the meteor crash. One day Gus, Laurence Fishburne, stirs and appears on the concourse. He is a deck group chief and has gotten up exactly on schedule. Hibernation units have never failed, and he figures out that something major is misguided. His wristband gets them into the conflict room, where they find that the boat's modified diagnostics have failed and they need to investigate each deck actually. While Gus runs tests before this ought to be conceivable, there is a huge gravity dissatisfaction and Aurora almost chokes while in the pool. Gus finds that there have been streaming frustrations, and the PC can make a course of occasions that shows the fundamental disillusionment was 2 years earlier. At this point, Gus breakdowns, and Jim and Aurora take him to the facility and put him in the clinical auto-definite scanner. There are various decay all through his body and death is inescapable, because of the separating hibernation unit. He puts on his uniform and prepares to die, and gives Jim and Aurora his wristband, so they can get to the locale of the boat they need to go to fix things. In planning, Jim and Aurora find an opening made by a meteorite that goes through a couple of essential locales. Right when they open one entrance, Aurora is almost sucked out because of an opening through the body. She ruins it with a tablet Jim pushes to her, and Jim uses a liquid sealant to extra seal to the opening. The area packs, and they then get to know the mix engine fumes should be truly vented. The manual override won't work. Jim needs to get into a spacesuit and go outside to fix it. Aurora, by unhinged not to lose Jim, fights with him over the radio, but she pulls the switch. Jim is pushed out, his tie breaks, and there is an opening in his suit. He tells Aurora goodbye. She hustles to get into a spacesuit herself and goes to look for him. She recuperates Jim by grabbing his tie, yet when they get inside, he is dormant. She pulls him to the facility, and the autodoc says Jim is dead. Aurora uses Gus' wristband and his supplant code to get the machine to resuscitate Jim, and it works. He is alive, and she is feeling much improved and energized.